on? It is your boy Titus Peoples, and we are back with yet another episode of When Discussing Strikes. Please like and subscribe to Ultimate Class TV. Like and follow on Instagram as well. But today, we are having my personally favorite episode. I know this is going to be my favorite episode.
Oh, really? From the jump?
From the jump. Christian Cordes is in the building.
What's up, y'all? What's up, man? Titus, it's fucking great, man.
Yo, this is amazing.
Oh, my God.
Finally here.
We recorded a whole podcast before this shit even started.
Yo, really? Like, so we just going to jump right into
Let's
it.
do it,
Like,
man.
yo, I would like to start by saying I'm a big fan of your dad.
Thank you. Much respect.
Yo, and then can you just jump into that a little bit? Like, how does it feel being the son of one of the pioneers of the sound that Drake has? Because, like, I tell people all the time, man, like, when we talk about early hip-hop and R&B acts, your father is normally not mentioned in that conversation, and it blows my mind. Give people a little history on...
Well, let's not be vague. My dad was the lead singer, head producer for PM Dawn. And honestly, like, it's strange because growing up, he was just dad. That's all I knew him as. And then I knew that his job was to go on stage, sing la-las, and then come home and make nuggets and hang out. Like, that was it. Like, this whole PM Dawn persona didn't really click until his last couple of years.
Really?
Where I was like, oh my God, my dad means a lot to a lot of people. Like, I knew whenever my teachers would end up finding out, it'd be the funniest thing in the world. Because it'd be a mixture of, oh my God, or who?
Yeah, it's either one of the two. Like,
yeah,
who?
it's never like, okay. It's always one or the other. But I would always gauge and see, like, okay, they were cool, like, they know who he is. But, like, I never really processed it all that much until, like, and then after he passed away, it really did kind of settle in.
Yeah.
Where it was like, wow, this is a legacy now. And like, for example, I'm big into music, so I love all types of music, all types of sounds. One of my favorite bands is the Beach Boys.
Right.
And Questlove from the Roots, when my dad passed away, wrote this beautiful post where he called my dad, or what he could have been, the Brian Wilson of hip hop. And when that was said, it touched me in a way where I was like, I get it. Like, that, wow. Like, thank you for that. So it is definitely strange, but in the best way possible, because then I get to hear all the stories, because some people went to his concerts and would tell me what it was like, because I only experienced that from the side of the stage.
Right.
And then occasionally, sometimes he'd bring me up. Fun fact: there was one time in San Francisco where he brought me up on stage and he was like, "This is my son Christian." Crowd goes, "Ah!" And he's like, he knows the most useless information ever, but it's amazing. Yeah. And then he's like, my son wants to be a filmmaker. Ah. And you know what he's writing right now? And this is true at the time. He's writing Goonies 2. And everyone was like, oh shit. Like, and they were like, Christian. Like, and that was my first exposure to, like, people being like, whoa, like, that's crazy.
Yo.
So yeah, that's what it's like having PM Dawn as your pop. It's fucking weird, but in a good way.
That's amazing, man. So, like, you already just told us about your dad, but tell me what it's like growing up in New Jersey, man. Like, the New Jersey culture and art scene out there.
It's weird, because I'll be honest with you, man. I grew up in what we call Howlbama. So I grew up kind of in the sticks and suburbs. I mean, the first couple of years of my life, I lived in Jersey City.
Okay.
And then my mom and dad were like, this school system is fucked. Let's get him towards better people that can actually educate this kid. And I'm grateful for that, because I had a great education. It was just interesting always being one of the kids with color that you could count on two hands.
Yeah, right.
So it was very interesting in that way growing up. But the high school that I ended up going to also had, like, a performing arts thing. So, like, I was involved with that a little bit, like helping build sets and shit, which is really funny because I wasn't an actor. I wasn't a performer or anything like that. I didn't sing.
Yeah, you were just good with your hands.
I just loved building shit. Because originally I wanted to be an architect. My love of film comes from that, where I was like, oh, I can make buildings for movies. And then someone was like, you can make movies and get paid. I was like, what? Sign me up. Like,
Word.
I'm in. Like,
Word.
how do I do that? Just watch movies and study them and see what ticks with you, and then that's it. And the rest is history. But growing up in Jersey, it was like, I guess it kind of instilled style in a weird way, trying to figure out like how I can make the most of telling whatever story I could at the time in the limited little town that I did live in. So it was interesting. It was fun growing up because it was easy to walk around and hang out with your buddies, but it was easy to call upon them to be like, "Yo, you're gonna die in my action film next week." Okay.
Word, cause like everything is so small and
Yeah.
like you're one phone call away from a role. Like yo, I need you to get hit by a car. Like, you know,
No shit. That's exactly what would happen. Oh my god, in high school, me and my buddies were working on a web series, and funny enough, this is actually what got me into DFA too, in the Digital Film Academy. We were working on a web series called Alex Babcock, Professional Ass Kicker.
Oh wow.
and it was like a parody of like 66 Batman.
Oh okay.
Where my best friend at the time, Alex, was just a superhero who could kick ass. He was a professional ass kicker. And we had a stunt where this kid was holding on to the roof of a car, and I had a camera way up in the air on a monopod, and this kid's mom pulled up.
Whoa.
And she was like, "What are you doing?" And we're like, "We're making a movie." And she's like, "Who's the director?" "Me." She's like, "If you ever make my son do that again, I'll kill you." "Did the footage look good?" I was like, "Yes, it did." "Okay." And she drove away. And I'll never forget that.
Yo, that's amazing, bro. Like, so your love for filmmaking and writing and stuff like that, but I also noticed that like you have a very particular passion for children's programming. Where did that come from, man?
I was a Sesame Street kid, dude. I was raised just almost exclusively on that, but it was because my dad had a really crazy experience. So I was raised not watching Disney for the first couple of years of my life. I didn't watch like anything that they had made for years. I would see these characters, but I wouldn't know who the fuck Mickey Mouse was probably until I was 6 or 7.
Wow.
But this was because my dad had a horrible experience at Disneyland where he was performing and someone ditched his rider and gave him the most racist shit you could imagine in his dressing room. So my dad was like, "Fuck Disney. Fuck anything that they make. I'm not letting my kids watch any of that." So I didn't watch it for the first couple of years of my life. In lieu of that, Sesame Street, Muppets, anything classic media like H.R. Puffin stuff,
Okay.
Sid and Marty Krofft. Like, I was raised on some old school kid shows. But I always loved how fun they were, despite being educational. Yeah, I knew I was learning some shit, but I was enthralled. Because
Right.
when you watch an episode of Sesame Street, more so classic era, I mean, I don't want to disrespect what they're doing now. Like, it's just different.
Yeah, like Sesame Street now gives me more of like a Saturday Night Live for kids kind of vibe.
Which is funny because that's what they literally have right now. Elmo's got his own fucking talk show.
On fucking HBO Max.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other fucking discussion with how they destroyed their own app in 1 week.
Yeah, right. Like,
But no, it's in comparison of the two different eras, it's different. But I loved classic Sesame Street growing up. Like it really classic Sesame Street, old school Muppet Show, the Muppet movies. It really informed my humor and my sense of humor and style. And then from there, it's interesting how you could branch off.
right.
So like Muppet Show is very British humor, very fourth wall breaking, silly. But then above that, my mom and dad would be like, "Okay, he's old enough. If he likes Muppet Show, he'll probably love Monty Python."
Right.
And then you keep going from there and there. So it starts there, but it opens up a whole fucking world for you. So, because like old school Sesame Street used to parody things that they would never parody now.
Right.
Like I was just watching a clip of my brother where these guys were singing "Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds." I was like, I guess they didn't know what that
And the
song
was
meant
a
at the
word,
time.
Yeah, like
But the idea that they actually took the time to film it is just hysterical to me. But yeah, so that's why like children's media has always been like a thing for me. Plus, it's always fun. Like you're always coming up with concepts that like lay the groundwork for how other kids can start their
Right.
thinking.
Absolutely.
Like I hate this whole like demonization of like wokeness and shit lately. I hate that shit. And I hate the overtness of some things too. Where I'm just like, listen, all I want to do is make programming that just makes people be kind to each other and that's it. Yes, we can acknowledge our skin colors, our differences and all that type of stuff, but we can do it in a way that's not fucking ham-fisted.
Right, yeah, like punching
Where-
an 8-year-old kid in the face, like, you know
Yes,
what I mean?
but then I do see the need in doing some things in a weird way, ham-fisted. But at the same time, it's just wanting to create something good and memorable because that was the shows I grew up on, and it was like, it was Grover hanging out with Cookie Monster, even though Cookie Monster would always eat his fucking cookies.
Right.
They were still best buds at the end of the day. That's it. Okay, cool. Moving on.
Moving
Fucking
on.
we deal with their argument. That's it. Just keep it moving. And that's the kind of philosophy I have when I come up with these shows. Even when they're silly and absurd, I've sent you some concepts where you're just like, whoa.
What?
like
Yo,
like
listen,
in a good way. Whoa.
like, you are, like, I feel like when we go to film school and stuff like that, and we learn film, it's so easy to jump into the horror, the action and suspense. We forget about children's programming. Like, you know what I
We
mean?
forget about children's TV shows, movies.
everything. Like,
We always forget.
I was like, yo, children are like one of the biggest consumers on the planet. And it's not about making like financial gains off of them, but it's also creating something that kids can enjoy, much like, as you said, the stuff that we grew up on.
Exactly. 'Cause,
I just
like,
want us to go back to a time where kids can go back to being kids. Like,
exactly. Where like I want to be able to make a show that can teach you without even realize you're being taught.
right.
Like for example, like there's show concepts where I'm working in characters like who just happen to be gay or whatever. And it's not like a whole thing where it's like Timmy's gay, like oh whatever. It's more or less just like, hey, I'm gonna bring my boyfriend by, and everyone's like, okay, cool. Like
Right.
that type
Yo,
of shit.
listen, like, and me and my girlfriend had a conversation about that. There is ways that you can incorporate that in children's programming, because, like, you know, there's a big gray area. But as you just said, something as simple as that, like, you don't have to show two characters kissing. It could just be as simple as dialogue.
Yeah.
Like,
Simple
my
as
two
dialogue.
dads are
If
coming
you
to
want to
pick me
show
up.
them, cool. If they want to hold hands, peck on the cheek, whatever. As long as it's not like the main fucking focus, like, cool. If you want to do an episode explaining it, that's fine and dandy. That's your thing. But like, I think the better argument is to then make an episode that shows someone picking on that kid, and then showing his friends come through, being like, that shit don't matter. It's our homie.
Right.
Like that makes no sense that you hate him for that. That's the type of educational aspect of things that I enjoy, where it's like, okay, and
Right.
like, who cares? But you want to make fun of our friend, you're gonna have to deal with us. Like that's the type of kids programming that I think like really can work.
And speaking of children's programming, like, you had a nice little online gig with what's the train? Thomas.
I worked
yes.
for Thomas and Friends.
Yo, how did that come about? And explain your role.
That was strange, dude. That was a very weird surprise in life. Because if you would have told me I would have worked for a show that I loved growing up,
Yeah.
I would have told you were lying. So I only recently started experimenting with music and really getting into it and production and all that stuff. And I finally, when I was making music and learning how to do it, one of the things I had learned was, hey, write what you know. Same with screenplay writing. Write what you know, what you're good at. I was like, well, I know Thomas. I know Thomas really damn well. So I wrote a song called "You Are the Number One," and I put it up online without really thinking too much of it.
I remember that.
And then 2 weeks later, I go back and look at it, and it was at like 20,000 views. I was like, what the hell happened? Turns out, a whole community of people who love that shit. So I was like, you know what? this will help me build an audience, and I enjoy making this music. I'm gonna keep doing this. So I kept writing songs around that show, around kids media. I then ended up writing songs about like Sesame Street and shit like that. But then one day I got an email from this dude Eric, who was like, "Hey, do you wanna write songs for the Thomas and Friends YouTube channel? Would you be interested?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. What do you mean? Yeah, let's do it." And it was a brief gig. It was towards the end of the program that they had at the time called the TCC, which was the Thomas Creator Collective, where they got a bunch of fans to make official content for their YouTube channel, but it was all homemade. Wow. It was all old school models and shit, and they did a really dope job. But I was towards the end of that, so I knew that like my time was limited, so I had to make the most of it.
Right.
So I got to write some cool stuff when I was with them. One of the most memorable things was I got to write a Scooby-Doo chase song for Thomas and Friends. And that was a really cool hit. But then the big thing that happened was when the executive producers of the show got involved, was when I had to rewrite the theme song for the YouTube channel, but I had to rewrite it, and that's a big deal. No one really does that for Thomas and Friends. So I wrote a new theme song based off of a new group of characters that were coming in, and lo and behold, that video fucking spread like wildfire, and fans started making their own music videos of it, and people were just like, Thomas fans were losing their fucking mind, like, yo, this is crazy. So out of the couple of things I got to do, it was really, really impactful. And it's long done. Like, I haven't done it for them in a very long time. And I still occasionally do write songs still about Thomas and just post them. But it was so much fun. It was very interesting to see how the innards of that kind of company would work, because I don't know how much I'm actually allowed to disclose, because I did sign some stuff. But it was a really fun time.
Right.
It was mad interesting. Isn't it wild?
It is wild, man. Like, yo, just to think that we sat in the same film school, throwing off ideas. And
yeah, man. For those who really don't get it, like me and Titus go back further than film school.
Right.
Because we both didn't even realize it. We both knew Family of Dougs.
Yes, Doug.
Go elaborate on that a little bit.
Yo, so for those who don't know, I went to schools.
The interviewer becomes the interviewee.
Word, right. So I went to high school with Dougie Fresh's kids. I went to school with his two sons, and like we just built from there. Like, we was just chilling, working and stuff like that. I found out that they rap. I did some work for them, some graphic design work, and we became great friends. So one day Christian goes, I'm on my way uptown, and then like I'm about to go stay at his house. Then I was like, and then when you said it, I was like, wait, I know where that's at. You
go to my school?
Yeah, like
we go to the same school together? What the fuck?
Word.
That was crazy, because then I was like, I know somebody now.
Right.
I'm not fucking alone. Like, this is great. And then me and you would always have these dope brainstorming sessions, just hanging out, shooting the shit, talking about ideas that we will not talk about on camera, because you gotta pay us to get that idea.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of that, Blumhouse has a lot of explaining to do.
Yo, they got some explaining to do. Gotta say, check, Jason.
Yo, because like when you sent me that, I was like, wait, for real?
Yo, you know what? I think we can like talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Because that's really fucking. It was kind of funny, but it was also kind of like, what?
Yeah, exactly. So, in the dawn of the new Child's Play film that was released, like I had this crazy idea. I was like, for one, I might be alone on this, standing on a cliff by myself. I don't think that Child's Play reboot was as bad and ill-fated as a lot of people think. It could have been its own thing if it wasn't a Child's Play film.
I agree. I think it actually was a great Child's Play film. I thought it was a great little suspense thriller.
Right.
Like, it didn't scare me as much as the originals did, because the originals had that paranormal element to this. This had more of the technological gone wrong element that really resonated. I think it was a great film. I loved it, but I will never forget seeing it in a totally empty theater.
Same here. Like, yo, I saw it in a movie theater with only like 3 people. I was the third person. Like, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
it was me and my brother, and that was it. But we both loved it. We were both like, that was fucking awesome.
And I think where they messed up with the Child's Play film is this. They could have kept the whole suspense of him, Charles Lee Ray, getting killed, but him going into a door. Now imagine the supernatural element in Chucky being able to control shit.
Oh, yeah. That was the part where I'm like, if they had delved into that shit, like the dude who died at the beginning, what if that was Charles Lee Ray?
That would have been fucking crazy.
Where it made sense, right?
Right.
I don't know if you ever watched this show, but did you ever watch a show growing up called Danny Phantom?
Yes, Danny. I want to talk about something, but I'm not going to talk about it.
Yeah,
Like,
but I love Danny Phantom. That was one of my favorite shows. But do you remember Technus?
I remember Technus.
The
yes.
villain who could control
Everything,
all
yes.
the technology. That's what I kind of thought that they were going to do with Chucky in that Child's Play movie, where it was a guy who cursed the technology, but when he died,
Yeah, like he
became
was
the
the technology. That would have been crazy.
That would have been crazy. But they went away that I was like, all right, this is still cool, but like,
Yeah,
it
but
had potential.
absolutely. But back to
About what we were working on.
yeah. So I saw the Child's Play film, and then I was like, yo, that's crazy. Like, and I sort of saw the way that the industry was going, tech going wrong, and then I was like, why nobody ever talks about sex dolls? Like, you know what I mean? Sex dolls, one, are taboo, and they're also creepy as fuck too. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
They got, especially the ones that are like highly detailed.
right, like, you know what I mean?
It's disgusting. But the ones that you could pick an age, it's like Jesus Christ.
Right, like
it gets fucking weird. It's a weird horror rabbit hole. But when you told me this idea of technology, well, people could put it together. Technology gone wrong. You had an idea for a horror film where a sex doll
yeah.
comes to life and starts killing people.
And, like, the twist was crazy though. Like, the twist that we came up for it.
Was fucking nuts. I still think to this day is fucking crazy.
Oh, bro, like we're definitely going to jump back into Val.
But what was cool about it was that I think that me and you vibed on that idea so quickly because we knew the potential.
Absolutely.
And I think what I instilled in you was making it a contained horror film instead of it being just like a bunch of different locations. It was set in one location.
Yes.
And I told you that because that was like, you could add a level of horror to that especially in a lockdown, contained, one location spot. With that going on, fuck out of here.
Word.
But that to be continued because that idea. So the weird thing that ended up happening was that there was a Blumhouse movie that I think is yet to be released.
Right.
That it looked to follow the same path, and it was by James Wan and I think his company. And I was like, what the. I guess great minds think alike.
Yo, great minds think alike. Cause like I had to chalk it up to that. Cause I know I didn't talk about Val. Cause that's how much potential. Like all my super potential things. Like
You keep shut.
I don't like yo.
Yeah.
I
You want to
keep
cut this part out? We can.
yo. I cut it like yo. I'm so secretive that I put them in files that contain codes that sometimes I forget that I actually have to reset in order to get into it to continue writing.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who does that. I'll have locked folders on my desktop.
Exactly, locked
And
folders.
I'll have like the passwords written in places, just like hidden in nooks and crannies and shit, just in case.
You are
But,
like what
meanwhile,
password
now
is this?
meanwhile,
Like,
I'm about to go home and reset all that shit. But it's true. There are some ideas that you don't put out there because, and this was actually a thing that my dad was cursed with. He would have these ideas for music, and then fucking someone would come along and do it within a year. And I think that was a big thing with him where it was kind of difficult. And he wouldn't listen to many things because he didn't want to come across as being called a copycat and stuff like that. Because as some people know, PM Dawn dealt with a lot of beef.
yeah.
So Dad never really wanted to cause trouble. Even that shit with KRS-One was taken out of context of a conversation that was supposed to be private. And then someone decided, hey, let's put this out
Right.
and start some shit. Meanwhile, most people don't know is that they squashed that beef before he died. He was one of the last people to call him. And
That's
they squashed that
amazing.
shit. So it was very interesting. But that's something that was instilled with me by my dad was like, be careful with what you put out in the universe because that is energy that can be picked up anywhere.
Word.
So that's why I tend to not speak too much, but I still
Absolutely.
get excited and I want to tell people concepts.
Yo, right? And it's so crazy because like you want to tell people concepts and then like you only get 2 responses. That's fucking amazing. Or okay,
But here's the thing with you. I haven't gotten one okay yet. Every idea that you have sent me, I could see being like $100 million movie. It's
Thank you, I
just,
appreciate
it's just my thing is I hope, and this is outside of film. I mean, outside of children's television, I really want to make movies. I would love to make like family films too, but like when it comes to movies, I have ideas all over the fucking spectrum, and you can attest to that.
right.
But it's so hard these days because a lot of the ideas that were huge back in the 90s that instilled in us to come up with like small, big, medium movies,
projects, yeah.
they don't make those no more.
Now everything is either super high or super low.
You
like,
either
there's
make it a
nothing in-
$200 million movie or a $10,000 movie, and that's it. There ain't
word.
no fucking middle ground. And it's harder to get these ideas out there, and it's something that I hope in the future is more easily acceptable because people go see fucking movies in theaters. Like for example, go see Beast. Like my friend Jamie wrote that movie, and that's the perfect fucking popcorn fodder movie. $30 million budget. And it's fucking great. I know exactly what I'm getting into with that. It's Idris Elba versus a goddamn lion. Like, dude, come on. I know exactly what I'm getting into.
Go to the movies.
Go to the
people.
movies.
Go to
Support
the
those movies because if studios don't listen to our words, they listen to our dollars.
Can the people find you at, good brother?
They can find me on Twitter. I got my Twitter handle is ArcadePlayer1. They can also find me on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Arcade, like old school arcade machine productions. That's where I post my kids' music. That's where I'm going to be posting a whole bunch of new content coming in the future. Got some other things in the YouTube space cooking up right now I can't really discuss, but a lot of cool things. And then, where else can we find? I think that's pretty much it. Just my YouTube channel and that. I do have a Facebook page, but it's Facebook.
Yeah. And you guys know where you can find me. I am Titus Peoples across the board. Like, please tap in. And this was When Discussion Strikes. I'm Titus Peoples. Again, Christian Cordes. It was a pleasure having you, bro.
Oh, man, it was fucking honor. Thank you
Yo,
so
yes.
much, man.
And
Wait for
on-
part 2.